There's nothing more terrifying than hearing someone inside your home when you're supposed to be alone. These are real stories of home invasions that'll make you double-check your locks. This is Whispers Between Worlds, and we upload horror daily. Like and subscribe if you dare. Story 1. The Screamer in the Ducks. I moved into my cousin's old house in Maryland after he relocated to California. It was a single-story home tucked away at the edge of a quiet suburb, surrounded by a crooked fence and a yard full of crunchy leaves. The place smelled like stale wood and mothballs, but it was rent-free, so I didn't complain. My cousin warned me it had a few quirks: creaky floors, weird plumbing, and an overactive air duct. That last one made me laugh. I figured he was joking. The first couple nights I slept like a rock, but on the third night I woke up to a strange sound. It wasn't the usual creaks or groans. This was different. It was a soft tapping, like fingernails on metal. I sat up, listening. The sound was coming from the ceiling vent above my bed. I turned on the lamp, squinting up at the duct. The tapping stopped, then came the whisper. It wasn't clear at first, more like breathy murmurs, but it got louder. "He's not asleep yet." Wait, that froze my spine. I jumped out of bed, grabbed the broom, and jabbed it at the vent-cover. Silence. I was convinced it was a prank, maybe some creepy voice echoing from the neighbors. But when I called my cousin the next morning, he got quiet. "You heard them already?" he asked. "Took me 2 weeks." That's when he told me he never figured it out, but sometimes late at night he'd hear someone talking in the vents. He thought maybe a neighbor's kid had found a way into the attic and was messing around. But he checked the crawl space, the attic, even hired someone to look. No one ever found anything. I tried to brush it off, but that night I stayed up with a flashlight, eyes fixed on the vent. Nothing happened for hours. Then, just past 3 a.m., I heard it again. Clink, clink, clink. I climbed onto the bed and shone the flashlight directly into the duct. That's when I saw it. Not a person, not fully, just an eye. Pale blue, wide open, staring back at me through the metal slats. I dropped the flashlight, fell backward, and ran out of the room. I didn't go back in there until daylight. I called the cops. They searched everything. The attic, the crawl space, the vents. Nothing, but I insisted. They humored me, removed the vent cover in the bedroom, and they found something. A scrap of torn, blood-stained cloth and a small, yellowed notebook wedged deep inside. The pages were filled with rambling entries like, "She's almost asleep. I like the way she breathes when she doesn't know I'm watching. Stay quiet. Stay hidden. Be patient." It wasn't my handwriting. It wasn't my cousin's. And the notebook was dated 2 years before he even bought the house. The police took it seriously after that. They brought in crime scene units. Still, they couldn't find a person. But here's the part that really ruined me. On the last page of the notebook, scribbled in red ink, were the words, "It's my house. You're the guest." I moved out that same day. Never went back. Never even packed. I still wonder who or what was living in those walls, and if they ever found another guest to watch through the vents. That was terrifying, but the next one? Somehow it's even worse. Story 2. The break-in that never happened. until it did. I used to be a night owl. Late nights were my thing, watching movies, scrolling aimlessly, working on art projects in the stillness. That quiet comfort ended the night something decided to come into my home. Or maybe it had already been watching for a while. It was a Sunday night, around 1:30 a.m. I was in the basement, headphones on, painting in my little studio. My parents were out of town for the week, and I was house-sitting their place. A cozy, older home with creaky floors and those big glass doors in the back that open up to the woods. That should have been my first red flag. At some point I thought I heard something upstairs. A soft thud. I paused my music and waited. Silence. Thought maybe something fell off a shelf. Those old houses shift a lot at night. I went back to work. But then another sound, this time more deliberate. A footstep. You don't grow up in a creaky house without knowing the difference between a random pop and a footstep. I took off my headphones and just sat there frozen. The basement door was closed, but it wasn't locked. I slowly crept up the steps, everyone creaking under my weight. My heart was hammering, mouth dry. I reached for the doorknob and paused, listening. Silence again. Nothing. I opened the door slowly and peeked out into the dark hallway. No lights. I hadn't turned them off. That chilled me. I called out, "Hello?" Nothing. The house was dead quiet. But I could feel that pressure in the air when you know you're not alone. I walked to the living room and noticed the back sliding door was cracked open. Just a few inches, but enough to say someone had been inside, or still was. That's when the hallway light flicked on by itself. I turned, and the figure of a man stood there tall, hoodie up, face hidden in shadow. I didn't scream. I couldn't. My body just froze. Then I saw something metallic glint in his hand. Instinct kicked in. I bolted back down the basement stairs and slammed the door shut behind me. No lock, no time to think. I dragged a table in front of it, then a chair, then a box of old books. My phone was upstairs charging. No way to call for help. I turned off the basement light and backed into the furthest corner behind my art table. I grabbed an old wrench I had lying around. My breathing was erratic, shallow. Every sound became a threat. I waited for the door to shake, for footsteps coming down. Nothing. For almost 30 minutes I sat in that silence, frozen in that corner, until finally I heard sirens. I didn't call them. Neighbors had. Apparently someone had seen a man trying to climb back out the rear fence and into the woods. He never got inside, according to the police. The door was supposedly unlocked, but still latched from the inside. No signs of forced entry. But I know what I saw. And they never found him. Even stranger. The next morning I found something I hadn't noticed before. Sitting on the kitchen counter was a Polaroid of me painting in the basement. That back glass door, it had been open for days without me knowing. He'd been watching me from outside, or worse, he had been inside before. If you thought that was chilling, wait until you hear this last one. Story 3. The Eyes Behind the Mirror. It was a stormy Friday night when Kara decided to finally move into her new studio apartment just outside Seattle. The place was small, cozy, and cheap, which meant there had to be a catch. But she ignored the online reviews calling the building weird and noisy at odd hours. She was a grad student, and saving money was more important than rumors. The apartment had this old, full-body mirror bolted to the wall in the hallway. It didn't match the rest of the modern interior. It looked like something out of a vintage antique shop, gilded edges, foggy glass, and faint scratches that no cleaning could get rid of. The landlord told her it was there when the previous tenant lived in the unit and had been too hard to remove. At first, nothing felt wrong until the nights got quiet. One evening around 2 a.m., she walked out of her room to grab water. As she passed the hallway mirror, she noticed something that froze her mid-step. Her reflection was a second behind. She moved again, lifted a hand, then the other, and her reflection mimicked it with a slight, eerie delay. It wasn't her mind playing tricks. She was sure of it. She chalked it up to being tired. That's what stress and midnight snacks do, right? But then it happened again the next night, and this time the reflection smiled. Kara didn't. She didn't sleep. She went to campus early the next day and stayed out until dusk. Coming back, she found the hallway light flickering, which only made the mirror feel worse. She avoided looking at it. For 2 days she threw a sheet over it, but by the third night the sheet was gone. She was sure she hadn't removed it. She started hearing things in the walls, soft whispers that felt like they were inches from her ear. "Come closer," they'd say, or sometimes just her name. She told herself she needed to sleep, needed to chill out, until she finally snapped and tried to pry the mirror off the wall. But behind the mirror, there wasn't a wall, there was a hole, a deep, square shaft that descended into darkness like a ventilation crawl space. Except it wasn't listed in the floor plan. Inside the hole she found wires, old tools, and a pile of old cigarette butts. Someone had been behind that mirror, watching. That same night she woke up to the sound of glass cracking. She bolted upright, and there, standing halfway out of the mirror, like he'd just crawled from the hole, was a man. Grimy, barefoot, thin, with wild hair and wide eyes that hadn't seen light in days. He was smiling. She screamed and scrambled for her phone. He ran not through the front door, back through the mirror shaft. When police arrived, they found the shaft led through a twisted series of ducts that connected multiple apartments. Whoever he was, he'd been living in the building for who knows how long, using the hidden shaft to watch tenants through the mirror. A makeshift peephole was drilled from the back, concealed by a dark film of glass. The scratches? They were made from the inside. The building was condemned days later, but Kara never returned. The mirror was removed. But the footage found on a small camera behind the glass, that was worse than the invasion. He'd been watching her from the first night. And there you have it. 3 terrifying tales of home invasion that prove sometimes the real horror is already inside. If you made it this far, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss a scare. This is Whispers Between Worlds, and we upload daily. Sleep tight if you can.